Hello all. In this video, we're going to look at the join operations in PySpark. By join operations, I mean the inner joins and outer joins, which we use to combine data from different tables. First, I'm importing the libraries. Then I'm creating a SparkSession object. Now I'm loading the data and creating data frames. So the data is in 4 different CSV sheets. It is related to credit card information. The first sheet is card base, where we have the credit card number, card family, credit limit, and customer ID. And then we have customer base, where we have customer ID, age, customer segment, and customer vintage group. Then we have transaction base, where we have the transaction ID, transaction date, credit card ID, transaction value, and transaction segment. And finally, we have fraud base, where each transaction has a fraud flag. If the fraud flag is 1, that means it is potentially a fraudulent transaction. So I'm creating 4 data frames here. One is for the cards, one is for the customers, one is for transactions, and one is for fraud base. This is the first data frame, cards DF. Then we have customers DF, transactions DF, and fraud DF. So all the 4 data frames are created. The first thing I'm going to do is inner join the cards data frame and customers data frame. The cards data frame has something called customer ID, and customers also have the customer ID. So this is the common column. I'm going to join these 2 data frames using the common column customer ID. So let's call the new data frame customer cards df join customers df. I'm joining it on customer ID. This is the common column. And how am I join? How is inner? After creating the data frame, let's look at the data frame as well. Okay, so these are the first 3 records. We could see the customer ID, card number, card family, credit limit, age, customer segment, and vintage group. All the columns which are in both the data frames are combined into this new data frame. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is left outer join transactions and frauds. Now, as we know, the left outer join gives all the rows of the left table and the matching rows in the right table. So transactions are the left table and frauds for me here is the right table, because not all transactions are frauds. So I want to get all the transactions and also to flag which transactions are frauds. Okay, so let's call this new data frame trans fraud df. So I'm joining transaction df join fraud df. Now if the common column has different names, for example, if you look at the transaction base, the common column is transaction ID in the fraud and transaction data frames, but here both the column names are the same, transaction ID. It may not be, sometimes we have different column names for different tables. So in that case, instead of giving the keyword on is customer ID or on is the common column name, we could give something like transactions df. In that, the common column which is transaction ID, this should be equal to fraud df transaction ID. And then we'll write how they have to be joined. It is left outer join. Okay, so this gives all the transactions and the matching fraudulent transactions. You could see the fraud flag, which is null. For most of the transactions it will be null, and there will be some transactions which will be flagged as 1. Now sometimes we may have to give some complex conditions while joining. In that case, we will use something called join expression to give that complex conditions as a single argument and then pass it as an argument to the join method. What I mean is, let's say I want to identify all the customers who have experienced a fraudulent transaction. So what I would do is I would join the customer cards DF where we have the customers and credit card information, and the transaction frauds DF where we have the transaction and the credit card information. And the common column now is credit card ID here, and here it is card number. You see they have different names, but the actual values are same. This is a complex condition. We have to create a join expression. Let's create a join expression. Oh, the first condition is customer cards DF. You pick the card number. This should be equal to transfer DF. Here the column is credit card ID. This is the first condition. And the second condition is my transfer DF. In it there is a column called fraud flag, so that should be not null, because most of the columns are null. I want to identify only the customers who have experienced a fraudulent transaction, so all the null should be filtered. So fraud flag column is not null. Let's close it. Now this is my join expression. This I pass it as an argument to the actual join now. So customers, new data frame. I'm joining customer cards DF with transfer DF. On is, now I'm joining on join expression which we defined before. And how are we going to join? It should be in a join. So these are the customers who have some fraudulent transactions. Okay, then we have right outer join, where if you replace this inner with right outer, then it will be right outer join. If you replace with inner with outer, it will be full outer join. And then we have cross join as well. So these are the ways we could use joins in PySpark. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching.